I spent 15 years quietly paying my daughter's bills, nearly $1 million. Then I stopped. They called it betrayal. The community believed their lies. But when the truth surfaced, respect replaced entitlement, and the lesson they learned was worth far more than my money ever was. During dinner, my son-in-law laughed and said, "What's it like to be a loser?" Everyone laughed except me. I just smiled and asked, "How does it feel to know that this loser will no longer be paying your bills?" The moment those words left my mouth, my son-in-law's face turned pale, and the family table turned into a battlefield. You won't believe what he did next. He swirled the expensive Cabernet in his glass, leaned back in his chair, and said, "Retirement must be nice. No pressure, no deadlines, no real responsibilities." I set down my fork carefully, the prime rib growing cold on my plate. Around the polished mahogany table, candles flickered in crystal holders. My daughter had outdone herself tonight, celebrating her husband's promotion to regional sales manager. It has its moments, I replied, watching him take another generous gulp of wine, the same wine I brought as a congratulatory gift. He now preferred to sit at the head of the table during family dinners. I mean, don't get me wrong, you had a decent run as an engineer, but that was what, 40 years ago? Different world now. Everything's digital, fast-paced. Takes a younger mind to succeed. My daughter shifted uncomfortably beside me. She said, "Dad had a wonderful career. He designed infrastructure that's still standing today." He waved dismissively. "But let's be honest. When was the last time you built something, accomplished something significant?" My granddaughter, only 9 years old, looked up from her chicken. "Grandpa built me a treehouse last summer." "That's sweet, honey." He patted her head patronizingly. "But Grandpa needs to understand that real men provide for their families through their hard work. Not everyone can just coast through retirement while others carry the weight." The silence stretched longer than comfortable. My daughter laughed. Nervously, "Maybe we should talk about something else, Emma. Tell Grandpa about your piano recital." But he wasn't finished. The promotion had inflated him like a balloon, and the wine was making him bold. "I've been thinking, now that I'm making real money, six-figure mark, it might be time for everyone to start pulling their weight." I knew exactly what he meant. 15 years of mortgage help, school tuitions, car payments, medical bills. 15 years of watching him spend money like water while I quietly covered the shortfalls. He gestured toward my daughter and said, "She's been out of the workforce so long, living off, well, let's call it family charity. Maybe it's time she rejoined the real world." My daughter's face went pale. She knew, as I did, that their lifestyle depended entirely on my quiet support. The private school uniforms hanging in the mudroom, the lease on his BMW, the kitchen renovation they completed last fall, all impossible without my help. My grandson sensed the tension. "Are we in trouble, Dad?" "No, son, but it's important to understand the difference between earners and dependents, between providers and those who've given up trying." The insult hung in the air like smoke. My daughter reached for her wine glass with trembling fingers. The children exchanged worried glances. He leaned forward, emboldened by what he mistook for my silence. "I don't mean to be harsh, but someone needs to ask the hard questions. When was the last time you contributed something meaningful? When did you last feel the satisfaction of earning your way, instead of just existing?" He paused for effect, savoring what he believed was his moment of dominance. "How does it feel to be a failure?" The question landed like a physical blow. My daughter gasped. My grandson's fork clattered against his plate. My granddaughter started to cry, but I didn't flinch. Instead, I took a slow sip of water, set the glass down precisely, and looked him directly in the eyes. "How does it feel?" I said, my voice steady and clear. "To know this failure won't be paying your bills anymore." The color drained from his face faster than wine from a broken bottle. My daughter's hand flew to her mouth. The children stared in confusion as their father's triumphant expression crumbled into something approaching panic. I continued eating my dinner, cutting each piece of meat with deliberate care, while the table sat in stunned silence. Outside, Darkness was settling over the suburban neighborhood, and I could hear the distant sound of a neighbor's dog barking. After what felt like an eternity, I wiped my mouth with a linen napkin, stood, and kissed my grandchildren goodbye. "Thank you for dinner," I said to my daughter. "It was delicious." I walked to the front door, grabbed my coat from the closet, and stepped into the cool March evening, leaving behind a table full of people finally beginning to understand what 15 years of quiet generosity had meant. The 15-minute drive home passed in silence. My hands are steady on the steering wheel despite the storm brewing inside. I pulled into my driveway, the motion sensor light casting long shadows across the front steps. Inside, I hung my coat in a hall closet and walked directly to my study. The room smelled of old paper and furniture polish. I switched on the brass desk lamp, its warm glow illuminating 15 years of meticulously organized filing cabinets. As a retired engineer, I kept every receipt, every bank statement, every canceled check, time to see exactly what my failure had cost me. I opened the first drawer labeled 2009 to 2012. The folders were color-coded: blue for mortgage assistance, green for auto loans, yellow for school expenses, and red for medical bills. My wife had died in late 2008, and by January 2009, my daughter was already struggling. The first mortgage payment assistance, $2,800. February, another $2,800. March, the same. I spread the statements across my mahogany desk, the numbers forming neat columns under the lamplight. $2,800 every month for 180 months. My calculator showed $500 for $1,000 in mortgage assistance alone. Next came the car payments, his BMW lease, my daughter's SUV loan, to $100 monthly for 8 years, another $115,000 to $100. The numbers climbed steadily. Each folder reveals another layer of generosity I'd forgotten. Private school tuition receipts filled an entire drawer. My grandson's education from kindergarten through 7th grade. My granddaughter's from preschool through 4th grade. Elite academies, with swimming pools and foreign language programs, $24,000 annually, sometimes more for summer camps and extracurriculars. 16 years of education expenses, $192,000. Medical insurance premiums when he was between jobs. Dental work for the children, emergency room visits, and my daughter's therapy sessions after the divorce scare 3 years ago. Each manila envelope contained hundreds of co-payment receipts, insurance forms, and medical bills I quietly covered. $8,000 yearly for 15 years, $120,000. I found vacation receipts tucked behind insurance papers. Disney World 2015, European Cruise 2018, ski lodge rentals in Aspen, Christmas presents, emergency car repairs, the down payment for my daughter's kitchen renovation, another $45,000 in miscellaneous support. The final tally made me sit back in my leather chair. $976,100, nearly $1 million, for the first time since my wife's funeral. I felt the full weight of that promise I'd made at her bedside. "Don't worry about our daughter," I'd whispered to my dying wife. "I'll make sure she's secure." I remembered my daughter's tears at the funeral, her panic about the mortgage she and her husband couldn't afford alone, how grateful she'd been. Then, calling weekly to thank me, sending homemade cookies, bringing the grandchildren for Sunday visits. When had the gratitude stopped? When had my help become expected rather than appreciated? I pulled out my financial statements, the ones showing my sacrifices, the smaller retirement account because I postponed investing, the modest 2-bedroom home instead of the lakefront property I'd wanted. The 15-year-old truck in my garage was used while he drove luxury vehicles. The travel brochures I collected but never used because my daughter always needed something. The hobbies I'd abandoned. The woman from church who'd stopped asking me to dinner because I was always helping family. I'd given them nearly $1 million in 15 years of my dreams. At 10:30 p.m., I reached for my phone and bank contact list. Tomorrow would bring interesting conversations with the automatic payment departments we needed to talk like adults. I said. Sheldon didn't miss a beat. You mean how I can fix your situation? There was a long pause. Yes, that's exactly what I mean. At least he was being honest. Come over Sunday afternoon, I said. Bring the kids. What should we prepare to discuss? Caroline asked. Reality. I hung up outside my window. The first spring flowers were pushing through the soil. Monday morning, my friend Dave from the hardware store called, concern lacing his voice. Mark, I heard something troubling. Sheldon was at Murphy's bar, telling folks you cut them off without warning. Said you're forcing the kids out of private school out of spite. I set my coffee cup down. What exactly did he say? Called it financial abandonment of innocent grandchildren. Dressed it up in business terms. Made it sound like you're punishing Caroline for something petty. By Tuesday, Caroline had weaponized family ties. She called my late wife's sister, Jana. That afternoon, Jana called me, her voice lined with disappointment. Caroline says you've abandoned them in their time of greatest need. She was crying. Mark, she said the children don't understand why Grandpa doesn't love them anymore. Did she mention the $976,000 I've given them over 15 years? There was a long silence. What? Mortgage payments, car loans, insurance, school tuition, medical bills, vacations every month. For 15 years. That can't be right. I have documentation for every penny, Jana. The next morning, Emma called me. Her voice was small, rehearsed. Grandpa, Mommy says we might lose our house because you don't want to help us anymore. Did we do something wrong? My heart twisted. You did nothing wrong. Sweetheart, would you like me to pick you up for ice cream this afternoon? Mommy says you might say no to everything now. I never say no to ice cream with my granddaughter. At Dairy Queen, Emma's sadness melted as she told me about her art project. But when I dropped her off, Caroline watched from the window. With calculating eyes. Wednesday, Nancy Morrison, a longtime neighbor, confronted me in the grocery store. Mark Bennett, I'm ashamed of you, cutting off your daughter when she needs you. What would Martha think? I faced her calmly. Martha would think $976,100 over 15 years was generous enough. Nancy's righteous anger faltered as I listed it all: mortgages, cars, schools, vacations. Would you like to see the bank records? Nancy, Thursday, Dave called again. Sheldon was back at Murphy's, tried the same routine, but Bill Henderson, who sold them the BMW, was there. Bill asked, how's Sheldon affording a $60,000 car on his salary? Sheldon deflected. Bill reminded the bar of how I co-signed that lease. The place went quiet. By Friday, the tide was turning. Tom, my old engineering colleague, called. Mark, I heard gossip, but also your side. Did you support them for 15 years, every month since Martha died? They never acknowledged it. Last Christmas, Sheldon toasted his hard work. Caroline posted photos with hashtag family success. Double quotes. Tom whistled. That's cold, Mark. Saturday morning, Caroline's tone had shifted. Dad, people are asking uncomfortable questions about money, timelines, and documentation. You need to stop spreading lies. I haven't spread anything, Caroline. I just answered honestly. You're destroying our reputation. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just no longer subsidizing false ones. The line went. That Sunday was supposed to be the family meeting, but Monday morning, reality showed up first. Dave called at 8:15. Mark, a foreclosure notice went up on Caroline's front door last night. Big official one from the county. They had 30 days, $8,625 to catch up. By Tuesday, the BMW was gone, replaced by a 10-year-old Honda Civic. Caroline's pride was eroding Wednesday afternoon. I saw her behind a grocery store checkout counter, scanning items mechanically. Nancy Patterson approached her lane. Caroline, dear, I didn't know you were working here. Caroline couldn't meet her eyes. Started Monday. Paper or plastic? That evening, Tommy called me Grandpa. Mom and Dad are fighting again. Loud this time. About money. Dad said Mom's job doesn't pay enough. Mom said Dad never made enough either. Then they said mean things about you. What kind of mean things? That you ruined everything. But then Mom cried and said, maybe they ruined it themselves. Thursday morning, I passed by their house on my walk. Through the thin walls, I heard, 8 hours on my feet for peanuts. 15 years of handouts, and now, a door slammed. Sheldon's Honda roared. To laugh that afternoon, Emma came over. Grandpa, why is everything different now? She sat at my kitchen table with milk and cookies. What feels different, sweetheart? Mom's always tired and sad. Dad's angry all the time. They talk about losing our house. Tommy says we might change schools. How do you feel about that? Scared. But also, she hesitated. Maybe they should have said thank you more. Out of the mouths of Babe's Friday evening, the doorbell rang. Sheldon stood there, no corporate swagger, no confident smile, just a tired, man, Mark, I need to talk, man to man. He sat heavily in my living room, the foreclosure's real. Caroline's working 40 hours a week at $13.50 an hour. After taxes, that's $1,100 monthly. I'm bringing home about $5,800. The mortgage alone is $2,875. We can't make it work. We never could we? Without you, no, I said quietly, you never could. I've been thinking about what you said about earning respect versus inheriting it. I never earned anything, did I? Saturday, Caroline came by. Blue grocery store vest still on. Tears stained her cheeks. Dad, please, we need to talk. About Tommy and Emma. She looked smaller, stripped of entitlement. He invited her in for days. She whispered, for days until foreclosure. Tommy's asking if we're going came through my line. I wanted to disappear, but I smiled and asked, paper or plastic? Because I finally understand what work means. What you've been trying to teach us. Sheldon told me about last night's conversation. You asked him if there's a way forward. There might be, but it requires changes from both of you. I leaned in. I'll pay Tommy and Emma's school tuition directly. I'll cover their clothing, medical expenses, sports, as well as music. I'll set up college funds. But I won't pay your mortgage, car payments, or any adult lifestyle expenses. You and Sheldon will live within your actual means. We can do that. We'll downsize. There's more. I want public acknowledgement, a letter to the community, newspaper, a Facebook post, face-to-face apologies to the people you've lied to. Caroline's face crumpled. Sheldon will never agree to that. Then his pride is more important than his children's stability. You have 48 hours to decide. She left, shoulders heavy with reality. Monday morning, the Honda pulled into my driveway at 10:15. All four of them emerged. Dad, we need to accept your offer, Caroline said. All of it. Inside my living room, Sheldon wrinkled shirt. Defeated posture stood behind his family. The bank called. Foreclosure completes at 3 p.m. We don't have the money, Emma tugged. On my sleeve, Grandpa, are we going to lose our house? Not if I can help it, sweetheart. Sheldon's voice cracked. Mark, I need to say some things. And this time, he meant them. Monday morning, 11 a.m., my living room became a courtroom. Sheldon stood, his hands clasped tightly, facing his family. 15 years ago, you offered to help us temporarily. I took that help and turned it into a permanent lifeline without ever acknowledging the cost. His voice cracked. I bragged about success that wasn't mine. I let our children think I was their provider when it was you. Caroline's eyes were red, but her tone was steady. Dad, I owe you apologies, too. I treated your generosity like an inheritance, like something I deserved instead of something you chose to give. Tommy's wide eyes blinked. Grandpa paid for my baseball. Grandpa paid for everything. Caroline said quietly, almost $1 million over 15 years. Emma's small voice pierced the heavy air. Why didn't you tell? U.S. Caroline's face tightened. Because we were ashamed. Not of Grandpa's help, but of how we acted like we didn't need it. I leaned forward. If I help you keep the house today, things will be different. I'll pay Tommy and Emma's tuition directly, cover their clothes, medical bills, activities, and college funds, but I will not pay your mortgage or adult expenses. You'll live on what you earn. Sheldon nodded slowly. We understand. There's more, I said. I want public acknowledgement, a letter to the community newspaper, a Facebook post, face-to-face apologies to those you lied to. Caroline asked softly, when? This week, before Saturday. Sheldon's jaw clenched. But he nodded. What else? Monthly family dinners. Not to discuss finances, but to maintain respect. To remind us that family is an entitlement it's earned through honesty. I stood, pulled out my checkbook, and made the call to First National Bank. This is the last mortgage payment I'll ever make for you. After today, you swim or you sink on your income. As I hung up, Emma whispered, are we going to be okay now? Caroline's voice, trembling but certain, answered her daughter. Yes, sweetheart, we're going to be just fine. And for the first time in 15 years, I believed her 3 months later, third Saturday of June, to p.m. sharp, the Honda Civic pulled into my driveway. Caroline had been promoted to shift supervisor, $15.50 an hour. Sheldon had learned how to balance a budget without miracles. Grandpa. Emma burst through the front door, grass stains on her knees, a soccer medal around her neck. Look what I won at the tournament. That's wonderful, sweetheart. Tell me about the winning goal. Tommy followed, beaming, his report card in hand, straight A's, a note from his teacher about his newfound confidence. Grandpa, I worked hard this term. No shortcuts. That's the best gift you could give me, Tommy. Caroline placed a manila folder on my coffee table. Dad, here's this month's budget. We're covering the mortgage, utilities, groceries, and car payment from our salaries. We even started a small emergency fund. Sheldon, once a man who avoided my gaze, now joined the conversation with genuine respect. Mark, I'm considering applying for a regional director position at work. It means more responsibility, a better salary, but also travel. Caroline and I have been planning how to manage the kids' schedules if I get it. I opened my folder, every document in its place. Tommy's soccer fees, Emma's piano lessons, their dental checkups, covered, handled, with precision. Caroline smiled, a genuine smile, the kind I hadn't seen in years. Dad, thank you for keeping the children's lives stable while we learn how to be actual adults. Sheldon added, we completed the community service Judge Martinez assigned after our public apology letters. Volunteering at the food bank was humbling. We met families who were genuinely struggling, not just entitled like we were. Emma tugged on my sleeve. Grandpa, can we show you the thank you cards we made? Tommy's card read, thank you for taking care of us, even when Mom and Dad forgot to say please. Emma's was simpler, heartfelt. I love you, Grandpa. You're the best. These weren't guilt-driven apologies. They were authentic expressions from children who finally understood gratitude. Caroline spoke up. We've been talking about eventually buying a smaller house, something we can afford, not immediately, but maybe in 2 years after we build more savings. Sheldon nodded. We want to prove we can stand on our own feet, not because we don't appreciate your help, but because we need to honor what you've already given us. As the afternoon sun dipped low, Tommy asked the question that summed it all up. Grandpa, are you proud of us now? I looked around at my daughter, who had rediscovered humility, my son-in-law, who had learned accountability, and my grandchildren, who now understood the value of gratitude. Yes, Tommy, I'm very proud of all of you. When they left, Emma's small hand was in mine as I walked them to their Honda. It wasn't a downgrade anymore. It was a choice, a symbol of the lessons they had finally learned. It as their taillights disappeared down my street, I thought of Martha. She wouldn't have been proud of the money I spent or the control I reclaimed. She would have been proud of the family we became when respect replaced entitlement and love replaced exploitation. Revenge, I had saw it wasn't punishment. It was a transformation, and sometimes that's the sweetest justice of all. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below to listen to the next story. Click on the box appearing on your screen now. Thank you for watching.